Hi YouTube, this is Elon QP and I'm doing a segment for Crafters with Attitude group over on Facebook on getting ready to stamp. And I think the classes are called one-on-one. In order to start stamping, you need a few things. You need some stamps, you need some ink, and you need something to stamp on. So I'm going to start by saying this is a rubber stamp, and this is a wood mounted rubber stamp. It's got foam, and then it's got the rubber and the wood, and on the wood usually is a representation of what the stamp will look like stamped. This one is by Hero Arts. It's well loved, as you can see. This one is a Unity stamp, and it is cling mounted. It's got foam, it's got the cling, and it's got the rubber. This is an unmounted rubber stamp. There's nothing, no foam, just I have put Eileen's Tack It Over and Over on the back of mine. That's my way of choice. And then you have your this is a different thing. This is a silicone stamp by LeBlanc, and it comes on foam. So it's already, the foam is, the cushion is there, and it's also the handle is made out of foam. See, because it can dent really easily. But there is the image on the underside. Then you have silicone, clear, though, that you can see through. This is a Diane Reevely set, and what I like about them, or unmounted and clear, is that it makes it easy to see where you're stamping. This is an acrylic stamp set by Close to My Heart. See, I have no respecter of persons. And because I like to use unmounted, you're going to need a block of some sort. This is Dilution's block. This is a block I've had for years. I don't know where I got it from. And you're also going to need ink. Now there's all kinds of ink. This is Versacolor, and it is a pigment ink. Pigment ink, the color stays on top of the paper and it stays wet longer. You can emboss with it, but you have to be careful if you're not going to emboss, because it will smear if you don't allow it the proper amount of time to dry. This is Versamark. This is a version of Versamark. Used to be called Dazzle. I'm not even sure it's made anymore, but it has a little bit of sparkle in it, but it never really sparkled for me. But this is an embossing ink. It's clear. It's also a watermark ink. It will leave a stain in the same color of the paper that you're stamping on the paper. This is Versa Fine, and it is an instant dry pigment ink. Unlike this pigment ink, this one will dry and dry pretty quickly, although you are able to emboss it if you work fast. This is Memento Tuxedo Black, and it is a fade resistant dye ink. Works very well with your alcohol markers. And this is a StazOn. Yes, I like Sukaninko. All of these are by Sukaninko. I do like other companies. I have some Stampin' Up, which is a dye-based ink. I have Paper Tray ink. It's a dye-based ink. Marvy, which is no longer made, is a dye-based ink. And this is StazOn. StazOn is so named because it will stay on. It is a solvent-based ink pad. It's kind of smelly, but it will stick to surfaces that these others will not. Now let's get started. The next thing, you need paper. And if you're going to be stamping to be a card maker, you need to be kind of finicky about your paper, because good paper will make or break your card. What I have here is 3 different weights of paper. Well, let's go exactly. This is Georgia Pacific You can get it at Walmart. It's relatively cheap. I'm sorry, my camera decided not to focus because all of the white is 110 pounds by weight, but it's not very heavy. Now you would think that it's 110 pound weight, that it would be nice and sturdy, but it is not. It is my least favorite paper because it's very, very flimsy. Get that white out of there. Next up, it's cardstock by Recollections. Very sorry. Get some of the white out of the way. And you can see here, it is also 110 pounds. And it is a lot heavier than this one. Hear the sound of that one? And then hear the sound of this one. The higher pitch the sound, the flimsier the paper. You don't want to use this for a card base. Your card will not stand up well. Not as well as this. And then this is Paper Tray Inks paper. It is in between. This is heavier. This is heavy enough. And it comes in a lot of lovely colors. I'm going to get all this white out of the way. And then we're going to do some stamping. Okay, I had to take autofocus off. This is a piece of stamping foam. And you want to have something under the paper that you're going to stamp on. I'm going to use the Paper Tray ink paper to stamp on. And it gives a little cush. Because even though there's cushion under the stamp, the stamp could have low spots due to the way it was manufactured. So I'm going to put my stamp on a block. I'm going to use the Dilutions block because it's handy. And I'm going to ink it up with Memento. And I put a piece of tape on the back of my ink pads. Put a piece here, the same piece here, and then gathered it up in the middle just to make it easier to hold on to the ink pad. I like to give it a tapping motion and then a little swoosh and then tap some more. The swoosh, if you just do that, you could get lines in the solid part, but if you tap, you don't get those lines. Now, you saw that the rubber was clean. You can see now that there is ink everywhere. There's a little glisten. See that? And that lets you know that your ink is there and it's wet. But adding a little more will always save you. And I always test out a new stamp before I stamp it on my project, because it may have some residue on it from the manufacturing process and you want to clean that off. And I usually just clean it off by getting an impression. We were lucky this time, nothing was there, and I got a great impression. It's all filled in. There's no missing spots on the image, and that's what you want. Now, if you're going to start with an acrylic, these are brand new. You should rub over them with an eraser. Let me get my eraser. I'm just going to use a white eraser over this solid stamp because that will help to get a better impression the first time. I'm just wiping it on my, because it's clean. I know it's clean because it's brand new. And wherever that other block went, just a little smaller block. There it is. I'm going to use the same ink. A lot of people say that they can't get a good solid impression on clear stamps with dye ink. But if you use that eraser trick, you can get a better impression. Press down. Try not to rock your stamp, because if you rock your stamp, sometimes you can get a halo, and you don't want the halo. Let it set a second. Don't be in such a hurry. This will also help you, because the ink needs time to transfer from your stamp to the paper. And that is a pretty good solid image for an acrylic stamp. So those are the things that you need to start stamping. Paper, ink, stamps. Stamps of your choice. They come in sets. They come singly. Come one, or a rubber stamp. They all stamp beautifully. Some people like red rubber better because it can take heat. The silicone can also take heat. These, I wouldn't do anything that used heat directly on the stamp. Could melt it. So I'll be back with more, but that's the first thing. And then you should clean your stamps. I just use a baby wipe them off, let them dry. As always, I leave you in the hands of the Creator, and that's the first in a series I'm going to do on Stamping 101.